At, at Wasatch Fitness Academy, we lead a series of classes each week that we call 3M, short for mobility, meditation, movement, mobility, and meditation. And I want to give you just a tiny bit about where that comes from and why we've chosen that name and what we mean by it. So I've been teaching yoga for about a decade. It was the beginning of me getting into helping other people learn to move better. I was teaching yoga, and I was coaching form priority running under the Chi Running banner. And I started that work back in 2009, so about a decade ago. And over the course of the 10 years that I've been teaching, I've changed the way that I've taught, and I've also changed the way that I've looked at a yoga practice. And part of this is I was often teaching in CrossFit gyms or CrossFit communities or climbing gyms, or I was working with runners, and I wasn't primarily working with people who were interested in getting better at yoga. And so and I also discovered that I didn't care too much about getting better at yoga. I was a lot more interested in getting better at being a human, being more mindful, having my body feel better, feeling good in my body. And these are challenges a lot of us face. And so the way that I lead yoga changed over time until the point where I was like, well, yoga for athletes isn't wrong, but it doesn't quite capture the things that I'm after. And so about a year ago, we rebranded our yoga program to 3M, Movement, Mobility, and Meditation, because what we're speaking to are the things that we do within a practice. Now, we use a lot of ideas from yoga. We use a lot of ideas from strength training. We use a lot of ideas from functional range conditioning. We use ideas taken from functional movement systems, the functional movement screen. We've integrated a lot of things that aren't primarily yoga or aren't often considered yoga. And if you look at one of our classes and you thought, well, that looks a lot like a yoga class, you wouldn't be wrong, because all the people who are leading these classes have a yoga background. But we all really value this idea of this shift in label. And part of it too is that a lot of us have attachment to labels. We have attachment to the label of what yoga is or what yoga should be. We have an attachment to what that term means. And we have an attachment to whether or not we personally are good at yoga. And that's really problematic for me, because I believe that everybody has the right, the duty, the opportunity to really feel good in their bodies, right? I think if you're a human inhabiting this physical shell, like, you better be able to make friends with it, work with it, enjoy it, and if the label yoga gets in the way of that, well, then that label doesn't do us any good. That label is actually a damper. And if yoga creates a sense of, I know what I'm going to expect when I go into a practice or into a class, then that can also be problematic. Now, I know a lot of people who love yoga, and I'm not dissing yoga at all. Like, there are teachers who designate themselves as yoga teachers that I will still seek out because I think they're that fucking good. But what it means is that for what we do at Wasatch Fitness Academy and what I do in my practice is that it's a different thing. Rather than trying to get really good at yoga, the goal is to get better in our bodies and get better at being human. And so we break it down into these constructs, or into these components rather, away from the construct, frankly. And we bring it into these base components: movement, mobility, and meditation. At Wasatch Fitness Academy, we currently have 4 different teachers, myself and 3 amazing humans who lead these practices. They look a little bit different day to day based on who's teaching. And we currently break our practices down into 3 main categories. Category 1 are our strong classes. This is one that I lead a lot of the time. And it's a really challenging class. It's not a technical class. You don't have to be good at stuff to get the value out of it. You don't have to be good at stuff to make it really hard. In fact, I take a lot of pride in how challenging I can make a class without making it look hard. It's an interesting thing. I also teach restore classes, and I also teach classes that we call explore. And our explore classes are frankly that. It's about learning new things, and sometimes it's a conversation about the nervous system and about mental states. Sometimes it's a conversation about how movement and anxiety and depression can all work together, and maybe movement can be helpful with these. It could also be exploration of muscles. Courtney is going to be teaching a lot of restore classes. Amanda is going to be primarily teaching strong and restore classes. And then Kira is probably going to be mainly teaching explore classes, because that's kind of where she is in her practice and the things that she likes. And all 4 of us are teaching from the things that we love and the things that we find really valuable. So this went a little longer than I anticipated. Thank you for hanging with me. Again, 3M at Wasatch Fitness Academy: movement, mobility, and meditation. strong, restore, explore. If you are looking to get hot and sweaty, you are looking to feel really strong in your body, the strong class is where it's at. You've got muscles and joints that are feeling beat up from a long weekend of skiing. The restore class is going to be awesome for you. You are looking to learn something new, and not just learning something new about movement, but frankly, the explore class is less about exploring yoga and movement. It's more exploring about like who we are and who each of us, one of us is as a human being. So I hope we'll see you there. If you ever have questions, you can reach out to me, Michael at wasatchfitnessacademy.com. Until next time, see you guys.